If you're like me, you probably watch a ton of mixing videos online. Anything from how to mix vocals, how to mix drums, how to master your own music. But in this video, I'm going to show you the single most important thing that you need to know about mixing. My name is Alex and this is Mix Tip Tuesday. Hey everyone, welcome back to Mix Tip Tuesday. My name is Alex Solano here on YouTube. We're here every week to give you guys insights on mixing techniques, mastering techniques, and production tips. This week I want to talk about something extremely important to mixing, which is called gain staging. Gain staging is the foundation for mixing. If you can understand this, then your mixes are going to sound so much better. Now, I don't want you guys to tune away because this is going to be extremely important. I'm going to make it really, really simple for you. And I'm going to show you the steps to follow along. Okay? For this example, we're using Studio One, and I'm going to show you how to do it from scratch. So for this, we're going to create a new song. We're going to call it Gain Stage. Okay? Pretty creative, I guess. 44.1, 24-bit, everything just default. Click OK. Now I got all these files that were sent to me by the producer. This is a track, so that means that all the files were consolidated on whatever DAW that we're using. I'm gonna click and drag that to the timeline, hide the browse, and there's all the waveforms. Cool. Now from experience, I know that this mix is just too loud. That if I hit play, it's gonna clip my meters, it's gonna clip my converters, it's gonna clip my speakers, it's gonna clip my ears. All right, it's just gonna sound terrible. Not that the music's terrible, but the levels are way too loud. So to kind of create a safety buffer for ourselves, we're going to insert a limiter. We're just going to insert something really basic, the BX limiter. Okay, and then we'll adjust the output to -1. Okay, the next plugin that I'm going to show you is going to be a VU meter. And this is what really this exercise is about. It's about getting the VU meter to read at -18. So we're going to add another plugin, hit VU, and use the VU meter. This is a free plugin for Studio One. If you have Studio One, this will show up on your account. It's an extra download. It's an extra installer, but it's free. There's also other free VU meter plugins out there. For those of you guys who are using, I want to know what your favorite VU meter plugin is. Leave that on the feedback below in the comments below. All right, cool. So this VU meter is set to 18, and that's -18 dB. All right, now watch what happens when I hit play. Watch. So when I hit play, this needle is just completely pegged on to the right because this mix is way too loud. And the limiter is peaking above 0. It's peaking at +4 dB. Those are peaks there. All right, so how do we solve this problem? Let's go ahead and hide our plugins, show our mixer, and let me show you some common ways that you can adjust the input level before you start mixing. And then I'm going to show you my way of doing it. All right, and hopefully you guys can learn something from this. So the first logical way of like how do I trim my mix down so that I'm reaching 0 VU here on the VU meter is just simply selecting all the channels, all the tracks, all the faders, and then bringing that down. So we're going to bring that down about -17 dB. Okay, now let's hit play again and let's see what happens. Okay, cool. So now our VU meter is happy. It's around 0. And, now we can start mixing our song. However, the problem is that our faders are way down here. So if I wanted to use like automation, if I wanted to do like vocal rights, the resolution here is really, really small, really short. Look at the distance between -12 and -24. Now look at the distance between 0 and -12. You have greater distance or longer fader throws around 0. So this right here, as far as bringing the volume down, is not really going to work. All right, so we're going to select all the channels and reset it back to its default setting, which is going to be Unity. All right. The other approach that you can take is by using a trim plugin on every channel, which is a plugin, and then adjusting the gain down without having to touch your fader. So let me show you how to do that. In Studio One, you can use a plugin called Mix Tool. In Pro Tools, you can use a plugin called Trim. Very easy to remember. Tool, there it is. There's a gain pot right there, and I can adjust it just for that channel. I can also show it this way, and I can adjust it with this trim. And I believe Cubase also has something similar. Okay, so if I wanted to insert that plugin across all my tracks, then I would select all the other tracks, which is channel 2 through the very end, click and drag this plugin, and it would insert it onto all the channels. So then I'd have to go one by one, solo the kick, adjust the gain, solo the snare, adjust the gain, and it's time consuming. So that's another way that you can do it. Personally, I don't like to do it that way, so I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to remove all these plugins. Done. Okay, so let me show you how I go about gain staging my mix before I start mixing. Let's go ahead and hide this. And as you can see, all my waveforms, all my events are selected. And there's this little icon right here. I can click and drag that down, and that allows me to trim the actual event or the actual audio, the actual waveform of my session before I start mixing. So this allows me to adjust the volume before it hits the mixer, which is great. All right, so let's figure out where we need to be. All right, let's go ahead and just take a selection there. We'll just go ahead and hit play, and we'll just adjust this and trim it until we see our VU meter dancing around 0. Here we go. Okay, cool. So I've trimmed all the channels minus 17 dB. And now I have a really good level coming in, and I have plenty of headroom there. I can crank this limiter up and get it sounding as loud as I want. Cool. Let's go ahead and hide this. Let's go ahead and deselect this. And let me go ahead and just stop there really quick and point out two things that you might be wondering. You might say, all right, Alex, I followed your tutorial. I did everything, but look, man, my waveforms are so small, I can't even tell where my vocals are. That's right, man. It's like, the DAWs, the way that they're created, it's kind of like they're a little deceiving on the eyes because, when I hit play, the meters here are not even halfway. They're all really, really low, and that sucks, but that's just the way it is. So what you have to do, you have to increase the waveform view, and you can do that in Pro Tools, you can do that in your DAW, and you can increase the waveform view so you can see it. Now that's different from adjusting the trim level, which I just did a minute ago, okay? But however, adjusting the waveform allows you to see it. Now, I know that a lot of you guys, especially overseas, from different places, India, Brazil, Belgium, Mexico, South America, all these places, you guys hit me up, and you guys ask me all kinds of different great questions and stuff. And so I understand that there's different circumstances. So, I could imagine that some of you might just buy the most affordable recording interface, something that's not too expensive. You buy a condenser microphone, you take it home, you download a software, you start recording, and naturally you want your waveforms to look like this big, and you want your meters to be like up here. But the reality is that if you're recording too loud and too high, and you start producing your music and adding beats and adding samples and adding chords, by the time you get to the mixing stage, everything's just crammed up to the top that is not going to sound good. So going through this exercise of trimming everything down before you start mixing is extremely important. That way you can get better, clearer sounding mixes. All right? So let's go back to our exercise. We've trimmed our session. We have good conservative levels. So what does this all mean? What's the whole purpose of this? All right, well, let me show you what happens if you don't follow these steps. So we're going to put these waveforms back where they were. Okay? And we're going to insert an analog emulated plugin. For this example, we're going to use the UAD Pultec. We'll use the new version, which is right here. Okay. And we'll move that. We'll put the VU meter first. We'll put the Pultec next. And then we'll see the limiter there. Okay. And that's all living on the master channel. So let me show you this way. That way you guys can see all the plugins. All right, this is plugin number 2, and this is plugin number 3. Okay, cool. So we're back to the beginning. We brought in our files. We're gonna hit play, and we're gonna start mixing. All right, let's say that we wanted to add, give a little bass boost and a little treble boost. All right, so I'm just gonna hit play, and let's do that, and let's see what happens. All right, I'm gonna stop it because that sounds absolutely terrible. And that's the kind of problems that you guys are gonna run into. If you don't do the proper gain staging as soon as you start adding the plugins, especially on the mix bus, and especially if they're analog emulated plugins that are looking for that minus 18 dB, then you're gonna run into all kinds of problems. Now let's take that same exercise, trim our input down, okay? Hit play, and then boost our bass, boost our treble, and see what we get. Here we go. So now we're able to use this Pultic, which is an analog emulated plugin, in the environment, in the input level that it was meant to work with. And we still have headroom. That means that on this limiter, I can crank that up louder if I want, because we're peaking our mix now at minus 4 dB. So the whole purpose of this, what I'm sharing with you guys, is that if you're having problems with your mixes, go back to the source. You go back to the foundation, which is going to be what's your input level, right? If you guys are producing your own stuff, which most of you are, that's great. You know, print those tracks, freeze those tracks, whatever you want to call it. But then before you start mixing, like bring the input level down either with a plugin using a trim plugin, or bring the actual waveform volume down before you start mixing. Use a VU meter, a free one or whatever you want to use, set to minus 18 dB, and try to get your needles to dance around 0. Trust me, you're going to have clearer, punchier, greater sounding mixes. I'd love to hear from you in the feedback below if this video was useful, if it makes any sense. And next week, I'm going to show you how to do this inside of Pro Tools using the Apollo with analog hardware. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share. Leave your feedback below, and I'll see you guys next time.